Okay, so this is another attempt to go live. I went live earlier and I didn't like it. I kind of messed it up a few times. But now I know what I want to talk about. So this should be pretty informative. Before we jump in to the content, thanks to everybody for watching. I should be able to see your comments now. So if you comment on the video or you have a reaction in the chat area, then I can respond to it in real time. Amazing. So what we're going to cover in this live stream is I want to cover 2 useful sites for any recruiters out there, useful websites that will help you. Man, this coffee made me wired. Woo! That will help you as a recruiter. One of them is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, so BLS.gov. Another one is Layoffs.fyi. So with that said, and then also what we're going to cover is layoffs. Massive layoffs continue, the title of this video. How did we get here? Well, let's discuss that as well. Cool. I have one person watching. Awesome. You start somewhere. Hello, one person. If you type something or comment something, I think I should be able to see it. Okay, so now if I click this button, we go to screen share. Cool. So this is the BLS.gov. It is a website with a lot of great information, specifically for recruiters around unemployment. So I wanted to just show you one section of this, but I want you to imagine that this is a landmine of many different useful sections for you in your recruiting efforts. Yeah. So let's look at this. State unemployment rates, seasonally adjusted. So when you see this, October 2022, that's because the BLS gets all of their data from the month before. So as of October 2022, what we see here is we see a map of all of the different states in the United States of America. Hello, Anila. Thank you very much. Hopefully you'll find this. Are you a recruiter? I think maybe you are if you're on this channel, but let me know if you're a recruiter because this will be useful for you. But anyways, so you have this right here, and this, I guess what would this be called? Not a graph, but this, I don't know what this is called. Anyways, this interactive map shows us where the highest amount of unemployment is, and it shows us where the lowest amount of unemployment is via states themselves. So we see that we have high unemployment in California. Why do we think that is? Well, it's probably because companies like Meta and Facebook are laying off tens of thousands of people and are planning on continuing to do so, which is no fun for us recruiters. And then we see the same thing in Texas, a lot of unemployment there, or I should say, relatively speaking, higher unemployment there, because that's where a lot of tech companies are as well. And as these massive layoffs continue, we're going to see a lot of these tech-centric states see an increase in this number. We also see that Alaska has 4.5%. I don't know what that's all about. I think of Alaska as having a lot of fish. I've many times thought that I might go to Alaska to maybe work on one of their boats, because I've heard you can make some good money just catching fish. But there's a lot of unemployment, so maybe there's not as much fish jumping right now. Anila, I am in HR as a senior administrator pay services, and I did recruiting too. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching. It's super cool. Awesome. So yeah, so this is just a great a little site for you guys. Explore it. The reason this is cool is because as recruiters, we recruit in a lot of different areas. We do food, we do manufacturing, we do hospitality and healthcare, and of course we also do technical recruiting. So take a look at this. You might have an idea of what states have the highest unemployment, and therefore what states are going to have a lot of return on your recruiting efforts, because folks are in need of jobs in those states. So let's continue on. So why are these massive layoffs happening? How did we get here? The title of the video. Let's discuss it. the bad bet tech companies made that got them into this mess. Wowza. So what is the bad bet that they made? Basically, we'll do a little bit of history here, but circa 2020, we had a pandemic. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we had a total pandemic. And in this pandemic, a lot of us just sat inside and we looked at our tablets and we looked at Netflix and we listened to our Spotify and we shopped on Shopify, and there was a lot of IFIs that we interacted with. And what ended up happening is, because we were all inside, not going out, not doing stuff, we interacted online with these tech companies, and their revenues went through the roof. Because of this Black Swan event, they now had this massive increase in profit. And what did they do with that massive increase in profit? They hired people, a lot of people. Meta nearly doubled its workforce since 2020. Amazon added 427,000 people in just 10 months. That's a lot of people, That's a lot of people. So, and why did they do this? It's because they had all the revenue. And why do you hire a bunch of employees or a bunch of new employees? Well, ideally, you hire them for. You want them to stumble onto new streams of revenue to increase the overall profitability of the company. So you hire a bunch of people. Each person is worth a certain amount of dollar amount, hopefully. And then from there, you can expand things like R&D, which could maybe find a whole new business stream to add to your revenue. So that's what they did. They did this bet. All these tech companies said, we're going to hire a bunch of people, and we are going to kind of get the getting while the getting's good and see what we can do with all this extra revenue and all this extra opportunity. So that's where we were in 2020. And it was wonderful for a long time. If you were a recruiter, you're like, man, I'll always have job security. I'll always be secure in my job. I'm like super cool. I'm not worried about it. I'm getting hit up by my own people all the time. But the party seems to be over. And the reason the party is over temporarily is because these companies, they made this big bet. And the bet was that this profitability margin would continue and continue and continue. And inevitably, things always come to an end. And what ended up happening is pandemic ended and people started going out and they started being online less. And not to mention, because we printed so much money, we started to see the early signs of a recession unfolding. So companies have these three things, right? They have profit, they have revenue, and they have expenses. Those are kind of that's like the triangle of stability of a company. So whenever we go through layoffs because the profitability and the revenue, generally speaking, is taking a substantial hit. And these lower level strategies to fight less profitability, like hiring freezes or reshuffling or things like that, aren't working enough. So then you have to do layoffs. So this is interesting right here. One of the tragedies, check this out, guys. One of the tragedies is that one of the tragedies of companies is that a risk that may make sense for the company to take could be catastrophic for its employees. That's a perfect summary of what happened. They took a risk in that they hired all these folks and they did everything they could to become more profitable. And now that they're not able to sustain what they had originally had, they are having to lay off folks, and we're paying the price. So that's kind of how we got where we got. And there's a lot of great things in this article talking about how folks, in tech, you don't want to be accused of not being bold enough, not being brash enough, said one Meta employee who was laid off this week. We can't let others get ahead of us, was the thinking. So that's how they were thinking about from getting all of that extra opportunity during the pandemic. the last thing that I would say is that on this note is that this is kind of that was a macro, I guess, observation of layoffs, and this is more of a micro. This is an ex-Facebook manager that was on maternity leave, damn it, that got the message at 5 a.m. when she was hanging out with her baby that she was laid off. And a lot of people are in this difficult position of, not knowing, especially if you're in tech and a recruiter. It's like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? Because all of us are going to be competing for this small amount of jobs. And the issue with agency recruiters is now you have all these candidates, but no jobs. So a little rough for sure. Anyways, but there is going to be some hope, I think, because I think that this is, like, if you think about what's happening in tech in terms of like binge drinking or just drinking a lot of alcohol and have a good old time, well, we're experiencing the hangover now, but there's no Bradley Cooper and it's not really that funny. And the hangover is basically all of the companies are having to stop and they're having to assess what the economic landscape is going to look like in 2023. And they're going to have to basically hit a hard pause button. And that pause button could take a while, or we could start to see, as the economy gets better, we could start to see a new episode of hiring again. So looks like, let's see here, hot girls free here, spamming me. That's not cool. How did I get spam on this? This is interesting. Anyways, so the last thing that would be cool for you guys to know about is this Layoffs.fyi website. Now, what's cool about this is it's very similar to the unemployment or the BLS, but this shows you, it kind of gets into the nitty-gritty of layoffs. And it says, it shows you graphs on how it's increased. It shows you which industries are being affected. And it shows you in order, this is brilliant for recruiters, shows you in order which ones are laying folks off. Because if you happen to still have some positions available, then this will be really useful, because immediately you go into booking.com and you're like, hey, I know you guys are getting laid off, but we have a position for you. And then boom. So it's not all bad news. And for recruiters out there, what I would say is that tech is getting hit pretty hard, but healthcare or finance, there's a lot of other industries that aren't being totally decimated. And I would encourage you to not get too down on yourself, because you might have to take a salary hit temporarily because, the beer pong and the food kitchens at the big tech companies, that's not what's it called? Expected right now, and it can't be expected. Probably won't be expected for a while. But that said, there's still some work for us, that's for sure. So, is there any questions? If anybody has any questions, feel free to mention it in the comment section. And if not, then I will be logging off. I'll give it like 30 seconds. And yeah, so we'll just give it some time. I don't know if you can hear my dog drinking water, but she is drinking water. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that. Cool. Well, it looks like there's no questions. So hopefully that was informative for you. This video will be up live later. And as always, may the recruiting odds be ever in your favor.